I'm coming at you live on tape from Sydney, Ohio. And today's movie is the true story of the Bradley fighting vehicle, the not amphibious vehicle that the U.S. moves their troops to the battlefield in, and how it came to be up until about 1986. It is the movie The Pentagon Wars, starring Kelsey Grammer, Cary Elwes, and many others. And this movie is a comedy because everything having to do with the Pentagon is a comedy. Well, pretty much anything having to do with the American government is a comedy. And the military is a comedy. We start off with the opening credits showing early tank footage of the early model tanks doing what the early model tanks did best, not working. And then we go to Kelsey Grammer as General Partridge giving a speech about why exactly he's in front of the House Armed Services Committee, and why his many things he's under his generalship he's tried to get built have not worked. And then we go to the Bradley, and we meet Lieutenant Colonel James G. Burton, whose book this is based off of, who's played by Cary Elwes. Yes, he's famous for The Princess Bride and Robin Hood Men in Tights, but he did do other movies besides Saw. Who plays Lieutenant Colonel James G. Burton in this from the Air Force. And he goes to Kelsey Grammer's office, and Kelsey Grammer tells him to rush the Bradley through. So he goes to the Bradley's testing, and he sees the Bradley tested. They fire a rocket at it, and the Bradley passes with flying colors. He wants to get a closer look, but John C. McGinley's Colonel Bach and Major Sears, whose actor I've seen in many things, but I don't know the name of, tells him that he can't. But then a man, when he's going back to the Pentagon, tells him there'll be a phone call for him at 11. And the phone call comes through, and he tells him, follow his instincts. So he goes back to the base and looks at the missile of the Bradley, and it's a Romanian rocket that he does not recognize. So he takes the door off the ammo shed and fires the rocket at the door. And the door passes with flying colors. Not only is the Bradley safe for our troops, the ammo shed doors are safe for our troops. Which, for some reason, makes Colonel James Burton angry. I mean, he should be happy that our troops can successfully hide in an ammo shed against Romanian rockets. But he wants something Russian tested on the Bradley. But they say they've tested all sorts of rounds on the Bradley, and it's passed. So Colonel Bach and Major Sears go to Kelsey Grammer's General Partridge, and General Partridge says, give them all the information on the Bradley they can. So by the time Colonel Burton goes back to his office, he's got enough paperwork to fill his office on the Bradley. And then we see how the Bradley was originally designed. An 11-man troop carrier with a 20-millimeter gun on top. And we learn how it became the Bradley fighting vehicle. Originally, they wanted to put specs on top so it could be a Scout II, And then they decided to put a cannon on top. But then the cannon would draw enemy fire from tanks because it looked kind of like a tank. So then they decided to put anti-tank weapons on top, all without strengthening the aluminum armor. So Colonel Burton wants to run a live fire test of what the Bradley would look like in combat with full fuel tanks and all the ammo it carries. Though now it only carries 6 men instead of 11. Well, General Partridge says no. But they do agree to let him carry out some tests. He puts some mannequins in there, but Colonel Bach and Major Sears order the mannequins' clothes to be put in a fireproof container so the clothes don't burn, though the mannequins do burn. He orders the fuel tank. They order the fuel tanks filled with water for the test to see if the Bradley will explode when the fuel tanks are hit by a rocket. Finally, he learns of a top secret study by the British that shows when aluminum is hit with fire and burns, it gives off a gas that is deadly. So he orders sheep to be put in this Bradley, see when it's hit with the rocket if it'll get off this gas and kill the sheep. Well, Colonel Bach orders the Surgeon General to open up a department to find out the exact type of sheep needed, and it will take years to figure this out. Meanwhile, General Partridge has ordered the Bradley into production because we need these Bradleys in the field, even though they'll kill troops, because that's the way the Army works. Colonel Burton just goes out and buys sheep. They put the sheep in the Bradley, but the problem is the guy who opens the Bradley gets a whiff of the doctor's fumes, and Colonel Burton goes with him to the ambulance, and they take the sheep to the incinerator, and they cannot get a look at the sheep. This movie is the best movie so far I've seen that shows how the Army actually works. So then Colonel Burton again pushes for a live fire test. This time General Parton calls Colonel Burton's commanding officer, and Colonel Burton's position is eliminated. Mainly because General Partridge calls in a favor. At which point, the general who helped develop the Bradley as a colonel calls Colonel Burton up so Colonel Burton can see the Bradley being put in the production, and see the Israelis has ordered the Bradley to be modified. Because even the Israelis can see this thing as a death trap. And he agrees, the general who originally designed the Bradley, make one phone call, and that one phone call is a leak revealing that Colonel Burton has been reassigned. Well, Colonel Burton comes back to his job, and he is ordered to do a report on the Bradley, which shits all over the place. But General Partridge orders the report rewritten by his lieutenant, to which Colonel Burton attaches a memo, which he can legally do because of the rules, shitting all over the Bradley. And then Colonel Burton gets assigned to Alaska. And this is when General Parton gets called into front of the House Services Committee. And we're pretty much at the beginning of the movie. And it's revealed that the Bradley has cost $14 billion, and has been in production for 17 years. And the House Armed Services Committee orders a live fire test. At which point the Bradley blows up. It is hilarious. And this is exactly why the Army needs more people saying, no, the Army cannot build these useless weapons. Now, this is the Bradley up till 1986. I mean, and after this, the Bradley was redesigned and was made more useful. But up till 1986, the Bradley was useless. So that is the Pentagon Wars. It is really funny. It has Carrie Elwes, Kelsey Grammer, John C. McGinley, bunch of other people in it that are really funny. It's on Max. Go check it out. We're getting out the song now. I'm only 13 minutes in. This song is called Government Waste. I've got to remember how to play it. The government spends lots of money, and some of it is kind of funny. Like spending 11 billion to build a bomb. Doesn't hit the target on the ground. Spending is called government waste. It is a disgrace. Like the 14 billion spent on a jet. They couldn't fly, they came to regret. Government spending is out of control, and government waste is on a roll. They don't care about the taxpayer dime. Wasting this kind of money should be a crime. This is the reason the country's in debt, and someday China will come to collect. And all we'll have is failed military guns. Then our government will be out of funds. Military spending makes up 20% of your tax dollars. A whopping 820 billion. How much is spent in failed death monsters? How much is spent to take someone's life? Shouldn't we advance science instead of advancing the knife? Government waste spending is out of control. Government waste is on a roll. They don't care about the taxpayer dime. Wasting this kind of money should be a crime. This is the reason the government's in debt, and someday China will come to collect. All we'll have is failed military guns, and our government will be out of funds. We don't need no more bombs and planes. What we need is people with brains. Show us the future isn't wrought with the bayonet. but people together, coming together with the internet. The government spending is out of control. Waste is on a roll. They don't care about the taxpayer's dime. Wasting this kind of money should be a crime. This is the reason the country's in debt, and someday China will come to collect. All we'll have is failed military guns. Our government will be out of funds. So that's it for this week's movie. Next week's movie is Amityville Bigfoot. The greatest movie since Godzilla Minus One.